There is a small war underway on a street in Philadelphia tonight.
The house shook. Smoke was coming in. I don't care what they said. There was no justification for what they did.
They done burn up 2 blocks. Explain that.
The house shook. It shook. And then we start feeling the heat and the smoke, which we knew wasn't tear gas. We knew there was a fire in the house. We heard the crackling of the trees that was in back of Osage.
The night skies over West Philadelphia, bright with flames. As many as 60 buildings may be on fire.
Police allowed the blaze to burn an hour and a half before calling in firefighters.
We all decided we was coming out, and we were bringing the children out of the house and hollering to the police, we're coming out, we're bringing the children out. And their response was, Bertie was right behind me. So when I decided to come out, I grabbed him. And that's how we both got out of that house, that blazing inferno. Police grabbed me and arrested me and put handcuffs on my arms, even though I was burnt. And they grabbed Bertie and put him in a police van and took him away. I never saw him again. Today, I still have the burn scars from May 13th of '85, and some people have told me, you should get cosmetic surgery, they can take that off. And I'm saying, why would I want to take it off? I want to be reminded. I want to be reminded.
Welcome, everyone. I am Leroy Truth for Leroy Truth Investigations, because recording our public officials in the course of their daily duty and holding them accountable shall keep us free. Now, this is an extremely disturbing news story that actually goes back a number of years, but it is as relevant today as it was then. And I want to thank Heather Holt, who has her own YouTube channel. Please subscribe to Heather Holt. She is who is known as a moderator who works behind the scenes profoundly to help support us to do the work and get these words out to you. So thank you for sending this video to me, Heather. Now, one of the biggest crimes of humanity, I'm going to show you to remind you, if you haven't seen this, it will shock you. If you have, it will still shock you. This is one of the biggest crimes against Americans by a government in the United States. This was the Philadelphia government, the mayor's office, and the Philadelphia police. Incredibly evil and depraved how they attacked this particular group of people. Now, this group of people was known as MOVE, and they originally called the Christian Movement for Life, and they were a communal organization. This is coming to you from Wikipedia here. And they were advocates for nature laws and natural living, founded in 1972 in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, by a gentleman named John Africa. Now, I'm going to read to you actually what comes from Wikipedia, and I'm doing this on purpose because Wikipedia, they like to slant things. They like to support the government most of the time. And after that, I'm going to show you a video of a news report where one of the survivors of this attack by the Philadelphia police, where they dropped 2 bombs on residential housing in Philadelphia. And there is a survivor of the attack, which you're going to hear from directly on this news report. Now, again, this goes back to 1985, but it is as relevant and even more important to hear about this today as it was then, because things haven't changed. The police and the governments don't care about us. And we, the people, need to take back our rights, express our rights, make the government serve us once again. Not the other way around. And as someone said, when people fear the government, it's called tyranny. When government fears the people, That's called freedom. Now, I'll share this article here from Wikipedia. The 1985 Move bombing. The 1985 Move bombing was a destruction of residential homes in the Cobbs Creek neighborhood of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, United States, by the Philadelphia Police Department during a standoff with the Black Liberation Move organization. On May 13th, 1985, police dropped 2 explosive devices, also called bombs, from a police helicopter onto the roof of a house occupied by Move. The Philadelphia Fire Department then allowed the resulting fire to burn out of control, destroying 61 previously evacuated neighboring homes over 2 city blocks and leaving 250 people homeless. Now, just this much as I'm sharing with you, not only did the police bomb a residential neighborhood, the firemen and the fire department were as complicit in this. They allowed the burning buildings to continue burning for at least 2.5 hours. No one went to jail, from my understanding, from this in the research I've done. No one was held responsible personally. Why? Qualified immunity. That's why. That's got to end. I know you want to end it. I want it ended. It's the only way we can change things. When there is no personal responsibility for these evil, despicable, aggressive actions toward us, the American people, my brothers and sisters who were murdered that day. Unless there's accountability, they keep doing it. And how many years later is this? Almost 40 years? And the police are still doing things like this nationwide. Whether it's bombing people or shooting someone 10, 15, 20, 30, 40 times. I thought they had a weapon. I fear for my life, little freaking coward. Oh, I guess he didn't have a weapon. It was a cell phone, or he was reaching for his glasses. Another story I just saw yesterday. Someone was reaching for his glasses so he could see, and they just beat the hell out of the guy. I fear for my life. What pathetic excuses for human beings. Then don't get into the freaking job. Continuing. The Philadelphia Fire Department allowed the resulting fire to burn out of control. And I'm saying this again to underline the egregiousness of this. Destroying 61, and they say previously evacuated neighboring homes. Are we really sure they were previously evacuated, or are they just making that up after the fact? I don't know for a fact that there wasn't anyone in those homes, that there weren't any people that also may have been injured or killed by this attack on Americans, on American soil, by Americans. Leaving 250 people homeless, 6 adults and 5 children. I'm going to say that again. 6 adults and 5 children were killed in the attack. Yet not a single person, not the mayor, not the police chief, not the people who bombed this residential neighborhood were held responsible. They went on to live happy, joyous, joy-filled criminal lives, supported and protected by the local governments. Now, 6 adults, 5 children were killed in the attack, with 1 adult and 1 child surviving. And you're going to hear from one of the adults a little later. So stay tuned. Watch this whole video. Stay tuned. A lawsuit in federal court found that the city used excessive force and violated constitutional protections against unreasonable search and seizure. You think so? And by the way, as you'll hear, that when the police surrounded their building, that the people inside with the MOVE organization were terrified to come out because they knew they were going to be assassinated when they came out. And they had every right to protect themselves and defend themselves as well. Continuing. In 1981, MOVE relocated to a row house at 6221 Osage Avenue in the Cobbs Creek area of West Philadelphia. Neighbors complained to the city for years. Now, this is Wikipedia talking, watered down, supportive version. They love the cops. They love their bootlickers. But again, you're going to hear the contrast of a firsthand account of one of the women who was a survivor of that, in her own words, in just a few minutes. But I want you to compare and contrast. Does it square with this? Probably not. But neighbors complained to the city for years about trash around their building. Oh, that certainly warrants 2 bombs, killing men, women, and 5 children. Confrontations with neighbors and bullhorn announcements of political messages by MOVE members. You see how the response of the government was completely appropriate based upon those so-called complaints. And by the way, as it says even in the article, the bullhorn was broken and inoperable for the 3 weeks prior to the police bombing of the row house. Again, I want to underline this. This was a bombing of Americans. There were children there. 6 children. 5 were murdered. 1 survived. The police obtained arrest warrants in 1985, charging 4 MOVE occupants with crimes including parole violations. Is that a death penalty violation? Contempt of court. This is insane. Illegal possession of firearms. Again, what gives the government the right to say whether you or I can possess a tool of defense for us? And making terroristic threats. I don't know specifically what they're referring to there. Mayor Wilson Good, the opposite of his name. His name should be Mayor Wilson Evil. And Police Commissioner Gregor J. Sambor classified MOVE as a terrorist organization. Well, anyone who challenges the present government many times is considered a terrorist or terrorist organization, even when they are not. Now, the incident itself. And police evacuated residents supposedly of the area from the neighborhood prior to their action. That's what's claimed. Residents were told that they would be able to return to their homes after a 24-hour period. Oh, by the way, we're going to bomb the other people in this place. We want to rip them out, and you're probably going to lose your homes, but we're not going to tell you that. The incident itself. On Monday, May 13th, 1985, nearly 500 police officers. I mean, this is an army they brought over for, 13 people? They brought an army. An army. They arrived in force, along with city manager Leo Brooks, and attempted to clear the building and execute the arrest warrants. Water and electricity were shut off in order to force MOVE members out of the house. At 5:35 a.m., Commissioner Sambor read a long speech addressed to MOVE members that started with, "Attention MOVE. This is America. You have to abide by the laws of the United States." He didn't add, "or we will kill you. We will murder you and your children." They were given 15 minutes to come out. Now, I want you to consider this. You are surrounded by 500 police officers with tens of thousands of rounds of ammunition, of which, by the way, they ended up shooting 10,000 rounds of ammunition, at least, into that house. The people inside were absolutely terrified that if they came out, they would be murdered by the police. And they were right as to the intentions. Cops didn't want to take them hostage. They wanted to end them. And don't let any mainstream media distort what actually happened that day. Continuing. They were given 15 minutes to come out. When the MOVE members did not respond, the police decided to forcibly remove the people who remained in the house by dropping a bomb on a building, which consisted of 7 adults and 6 children. They did this egregious violence for 7 adults and 6 children. They wouldn't come out. So we must show our use of force. This makes me incredibly angry, as it probably does for you as well. We talk about justice in the United States of America. Well, there has been no justice served with this. Number one is a profound acknowledgement of what happened. apology doesn't even come close. Continuing. When the MOVE members did not respond, the police decided to forcibly remove the people who remained in house by dropping a bomb on the building. I believe it was 2 bombs. One too many. Two too many. No bombs obviously should have been dropped. There was an armed standoff with police. Again, they dropped them on 7 adults and 6 children. It was an armed standoff. They have a right to defend themselves. We as Americans have a right to defend ourselves. Thus, the Second Amendment, ladies and gentlemen, that's why it is put in place for all you people who are like, oh, we got to disarm everyone. Gun violence, gun violence. By the way, there's no such thing as gun violence. As Brian from Here's the Deal says often, guns are a tool. Cars are a tool. Knives are a tool. How people choose to use those tools, that's something else. But in and of itself, a gun never killed a person. A hammer never did. Yet there are many, many people who are killed by hammers every year, for example. Getting back to my main point, the Second Amendment, those are reasons, by the way, that people will try to justify taking away our right to defend ourselves. It wasn't to hunt. It wasn't to do target practice. It was to assure that a tyrannical government could not take us over. Continuing. There was an armed standoff with police who threw tear gas canisters in the building. The MOVE members fired at them, defending themselves, and a gunfight with semi-automatic and automatic firearms ensued for 90 minutes. One officer was hit in the back in his flak jacket, but was not seriously hurt. You know what? He went home to his children. Of the 5 children he murdered, or he was part of the murder squad, he went home to his children. The people in MOVE were not so fortunate. Police used more than 10,000 rounds of ammunition. Anyone remind them of Waco or any other egregious government violence that we have experienced as free Americans? At 2 p.m., Commissioner Sambor ordered that the compound be bombed. And you love how they use words like compound? It was their house. That their home be bombed. From a Pennsylvania State Police helicopter, Philadelphia Police Department Lieutenant Frank Powell proceeded to drop 2 1.5-pound bombs, which the police referred to as entry devices, made of Tovex. From a Pennsylvania State Police helicopter, Philadelphia Police Department Lieutenant Frank Powell, another war criminal, proceeded to drop 2 1.5-pound bombs, which the police referred to as entry devices. You see how they play with words to make them seem so innocuous? And if you don't do your critical thinking, ladies and gentlemen, you'll buy what the media tells you, you'll buy what the police tell you, because the media almost always just writes what the police tell them and don't investigate the police. And also be critical thinkers of what Wikipedia tells you as well. Continuing. They're made of Tovex, a dynamite substitute combined with 2 pounds of FBI-supplied C4. So this is federal government is in this, complicit in this murder as well. Targeting a fortified bunker-like cubicle on the roof of the house. The bombs exploded after 45 seconds, igniting the fuel of a gasoline-powered generator and setting the house on fire, which was left to burn. Officials later stated that this was to let the fire burn through the roof and destroy the bunker, so police could then drop tear gas into the house and flush out those evil children who were obviously, police feared for their lives with them as well. So police could then drop tear gas into the house and flush out the occupants. 30 minutes later, firefighters moved in to control the fire, but there was gunfire, and the firefighters and police were ordered back as the fire spread to neighboring houses down the street. The only 2 MOVE survivors, Birdie Africa, who was 13 at the time, and Ramona Africa, both escaped the house. Police initially said that 2 men had also run out of the house at the same time and fired at them, and that police had returned fire. A lie. Ramona Africa said that police fired at those trying to escape. Police said that MOVE members moved in and out of the house, shooting at the police. The fire department later declared the fire under control at 11:47 p.m. Supposedly the fire killed 11 out of the people. So I guess those 10,000 plus rounds missed everybody. And that sounds pretty safe, right? I mean, armies don't freaking discharge that many rounds on an enemy. And this is in a Philadelphia area neighborhood. Now, aftermath. Mayor Good appointed an investigative commission called the Philadelphia Special Investigation Commission, a.k.a. MOVE Commission, chaired by William H. Brown. Mayor Good is complicit in all this. Why isn't he in handcuffs, in jail, in prison for the rest of his life at that point? Commissioner Sanborn resigned in 1985. Didn't go to jail. In a speech the following year, he said that he was made a surrogate by Good. Good was the guy on top. Good was the guy who should have been immediately arrested once the truth came out. Sentenced like for 15,000 lifetimes. Continuing. In 1986, Philadelphia artists Ellen Powell Tiberino and her husband Joseph created a 7-foot relief sculpture depicting their interpretation of the bombing, titled The MOVE Confrontation. It depicted people engulfed in flames, Mayor W. Wilson Good, a death mask, and horrified spectators. It created controversy in the city and produced headlines across the country, as it well should have. In 1985, Philadelphia was given the nickname the city that bombed itself. The MOVE Commission issued its report on March 6, 1986. The report denounced the actions of the city government. Mayor Good, why aren't you in jail? Stating that dropping a bomb on an occupied house, on an occupied home, was unconscionable. Even when they say row house, that makes it sound less like a human home. See how they play with language here? Following the release of the report, Good turned himself into the police to go to prison? No. He made a formal public apology. Oh, I'm so sorry. But I'm still collecting money from the city. I'm going to be a free man. Sorry about the 11 people murdered on my say-so, including 5 young children. No one from city government was criminally charged in the attack. Without accountability, governments will always become tyrannical. As Brian from Here's the Deal says, and I admire him greatly, hugely, he speaks truth as well. And he says that absolute power corrupts absolutely. And it absolutely does. Case in point, right here. No one from the city government was criminally charged in the attack. Yet 11 people are dead, millions of dollars of damage, 250 people were displaced from their homes. Yet not one single city government person was charged in that attack. That egregious war proclaimed against these people. The only surviving adult MOVE member, Ramona Africa, refused to testify in court and was charged and convicted on charges of riot and conspiracy. She served 7 years in prison. 3 lawsuits were filed against the city of Philadelphia, including Louise James, administrator of the estate of Frank James in 1994, Ramona Africa in 1996, and Alfonso Leopard, administrator of the estate of Vincent Leopard. A lawsuit appealing a judgment against the police and public officials was filed with the United States Court of Appeals for the Third Circuit on November 3rd, 1994, Africa versus City of Philadelphia, in RE City of Philadelphia litigation, and was decided on March 6, 1995. The court decided that the plaintiffs did not have a Fourth Amendment claim against the city because there was no seizure when the defendants dropped explosives in the plaintiffs' buildings. City officials and police officers had qualified immunity under 42 USCS 1983. But the city did not have qualified immunity from liability despite its officials being exempt. If this doesn't make your blood boil, ladies and gentlemen, and what was wrong in 1985 is exactly what is wrong now. And all these videos that you see on YouTube and Instagram and TikTok, Facebook, other social media platforms, Rumble and so forth, we need to give you these videos, ladies and gentlemen. We need to expose the underbelly of this country that plays a democracy on TV, but is far from it in reality. But videos are not enough. Outrage is not enough. We need to demand, peacefully, of course, demand our public officials create police reform now. It is the biggest domestic issue, not just of our generation, but probably since this country began. It is huge. And unless we, the people, take back our government, demand these public officials create police reform, getting rid of qualified immunity, getting rid of police unions, requiring external investigations for every police department in the United States, required body cam footage, unedited, unredacted, felony if police turn it off, and arrest, immediate firing, also felony for anyone who edits any type of video footage on the body cams, just to start with. And if you want to share more ideas on police reform, email me now, LeroyTruth247 at gmail.com. That's LeroyTruth247 at gmail.com. We have to change it, but it's not going to change just by complaining, just by commenting. We do need your comments on our videos. That's the proof we have of we the people that we've had enough of it. But we also need your phone calls to the senators and the congressmen and your local mayors and politicians, demanding change, that they change and create police reform. And if they don't, we don't vote those son of a guns in. We have to take our country back. Absolutely. Continuing. In 1996, a federal jury ordered the city to pay a $1.5 million civil suit judgment to survivor Ramona Africa and relatives of two people killed in the bombing. That is nothing. And of course, no amount of money will bring those people back or make up for the suffering that woman has had to endure in her life. And the others, that's a fraction. Plus, to take out lawyers' fees and expenses, there's hardly anything left in there. Should have bankrupted the city. Should have been such a big civil suit judgment. The jury had found that the city used excessive force and violated the members' constitutional protections against unreasonable search and seizure. Even though the court previously said, well, there wasn't any violation of the Fourth Amendment because they didn't enter the building, they just blew it up. I mean, this is insane. The jury had found the city used excessive force and violated the members' constitutional protections against unreasonable search and seizure. Ramona was awarded $500,000 for the pain, suffering, and physical harm suffered in the fire. And lastly, before I show you the video, in 2005, federal judge Clarence Charles Newcomer presided over a civil trial brought by residents seeking damages for having been displaced by the widespread destruction following the depraved, vicious 1985 police bombing of these human beings that lived in that home. A jury awarded them a $12.83 million verdict against the city of Philadelphia. It's amazing what a few decades will do to show right and wrong. Though everyone, for the most part, media and the police and the mayor good and so forth, they absolutely justified their actions that they were right, when they were no different than something Mao Zedong or an evil dictator would do anywhere in the world. That happened in America, ladies and gentlemen, and no one was held responsible. So I'm going to show you the video now, and I'll show, this is a news report going back to 1985. And I ask you to take action, peaceful action always, but call the public officials. Demand that we get police reform. And I'm focusing specifically on Senator Chuck Schumer and Senator Scott, Democrat and Republican. Senator Scott has been supportive of at least some police reform. But we don't want what they want for police reform, which is police reform light. We want actual, real police reform that we, the people, will be protected and served by the police. not harassed and assaulted and murdered as we are now. Watch this.
There is a small war underway on a street in Philadelphia tonight.
There was gunshots, thousands of rounds of bullets from the police.
Police moved in with tear gas and water cannon.
They wanted to kill our children.
I had recommended to use an explosive entry device.
The house shook. Smoke was coming in, so we knew they dropped the bomb on us.
Police allowed the blaze to burn an hour and a half before calling in firefighters.
I don't care what they said. There was no justification for what they did.
They done burn up 2 blocks. Explain that.
I never imagined that the government would drop a bomb on a row house in Philadelphia.
It's an embarrassment.
Can you believe this? And the reason this is so important, so incredibly important to see now is because nothing has changed. There's no accountability for what they did. No one's criminally charged, as I shared before. We have to hold our public officials, including the police and the mayors and the chiefs and the police commissioners, accountable and criminally get them charged.
Embarrassment to the city of Philadelphia.
My name is Ramona Africa, and I was there when the police dropped a bomb on me and my family May 13th of 1985 and killed 11 of my family members. I was there. I was born and raised in West Philadelphia. I went to Temple University and I was headed to law school. But after I met MOVE, I wanted to be a revolutionary. MOVE is a revolutionary organization founded by John Africa that believes in revolution, not in fighting and bloodshed, but true revolution. I joined MOVE in 1979. I was listening to what was happening with MOVE and could not believe that the cops were attacking MOVE the way they were.
Until today, there was a house in Philadelphia filled with people who for years confounded everybody. They called themselves MOVE and never said what that meant. They tried to live in the city as if it were the forest, ignoring modern plumbing, trash collection, or rat control. They offended the neighbors first and then the city, which ordered them out last year. Today,
the police and the government officials, they hate when someone doesn't want to live in the system. They show the most profound threat to the government officials, and they will remove them and eliminate them at all costs. And that's exactly what they did here.
the city went to move them.
As firemen crawled forward with a water hose, shots rang out.
Now, here's the thing. The police are claiming the people from MOVE did those shots. I don't know the facts to that, but there's a possibility that they didn't. There's setups all the time that the cops do to justify their extreme violence.
The MOVE 9 were 9 of our sisters and brothers who were arrested unlawfully for the murder of a police officer and given a 30 to 100 year sentence.
Last December, 9 MOVE members went on trial for the death of Officer Ramp.
Everybody knew that MOVE did not kill a cop because MOVE was in the basement. Officer James Ramp was standing up on street level, and the media said he was shot on a downward angle. So there's no way that MOVE could have shot him.
They wear their hair in dreadlocks because they reject combs as symbols of industrialization, which their back to nature philosophy opposes.
And you see how they're alluding that that's a bad thing? They had every freaking right to live how they wanted. If they didn't want to use combs, they wanted to live a natural life. As a free human being, they have a right to do that. All these were profound threats to the government establishment.
Their basic goal is to overthrow the present system of government, which they consider to be corrupt.
And it was proven years later that they are corrupt, especially in relation to this exact incident.
People thought MOVE was crazy at that time because of the media.
They spew out obscenities when they talk.
Terrible language.
And of course, that's the reason to murder them. Anyone hear of First Amendment?
Rizzo said that he wanted MOVE out of Philadelphia.
It's amazing that this group has been running loose now for a half a dozen, couple, 3-4 years that I know of, and they should have been in prison many, many months ago.
We moved into Osage Avenue because that was our headquarters. It was warm and loving. There was children there. We would take them to the park. That was mainly our day. Some people said we was on the loudspeaker day and night, every day. That was just a lie, probably promulgated by the police along with the media. We were getting along with our neighbors and nothing was going on. That's why we were surprised and shocked when hundreds of cops invaded our area trying to throw MOVE out of our home. And this was on Sunday, Mother's Day.
There is a small war underway on a street in Philadelphia tonight. It has been going on all day between hundreds of Philadelphia police and a bizarre back-to-nature group called MOVE.
Nothing happened.
Stop right there. And a bizarre back-to-nature group called MOVE. How dare you, Tom Brokaw? Of course, Tom Brokaw isn't a news reporter. They're called repeaters. They just repeat whatever the powers that be give them. They're bizarre because they wanted to live free lives, free of government intrusion. And 500 cops were called to take out 13 people, 7 men and women, and 6 children. You see something is profoundly fishy here. And this has been covered up so long. Most people don't even know this exists, that this happened.
All day, but that night, Gregor Sambor, the police commissioner, got on a loudspeaker and said, "Attention, MOVE, this is America. You have 15 minutes to come out." Well, obviously we didn't come out because we knew they wanted to kill us. They didn't want to arrest us. They could have done that anytime.
It was shortly before 6 a.m. when police moved in with tear gas and water cannon to evict members of the extremist group MOVE.
When we were in the basement for a while, we didn't feel anything. And then the water started coming down on us. I mean, rushing down on us.
What we intended to do was to create a diversion on the roof of the MOVE compound.
It was hard to breathe. Our children were soaking wet. And then they started with the tear gas.
Tear gas started coming in. We got the blankets and they was wet, and then we put them over our heads and started laying down.
They blew a hole in the house to the left of us to try to come through it to come after us.
What we wanted them to do was to come out of the front of 6221 Osage and surrender.
I got a hint for you, cops. As I saw in another interview, this woman said they would go to the park all the time, either every day or very often. If the police and the mayor and the police commissioner wanted to arrest them, that's where they could have arrested them peacefully. It would still most likely been wrong and illegal and criminal to arrest them, but then the little children would not have been murdered by the police.
We tried to get out after that. We tried to bring the kids out and was shot back into the house.
A gun battle erupted.
They they shot over 10,000 bullets. So that was their intent, to kill everybody in that house.
I don't think that they should kill the people and their babies. They should find another solution.
After that, that's when the silence was. It was a long interval of silence, and we didn't know what they were doing. We felt comfortable for a minute. And then the bomb was dropped. The house shook. It shook. And then we start feeling the heat and the smoke, which we knew wasn't tear gas. We knew there was a fire in the house. We heard the crackling of the trees that was in back of Osage.
The night skies over West Philadelphia, bright with flames. As many as 60 buildings may be on fire.
I was told, and I saw newspaper issues about people yelling to the firefighters to put the fire out. Why wasn't they putting the fire out?
They dropped the bomb on the house to take care of one move family. One move out, they done burn up 2 blocks. Explain that.
It was all in the newspaper that Sambor told the fire commissioner to let the fire burn.
Yeah, that person was not criminally charged, and that most people, including myself, didn't even know this happened? This is sick. And again, what happened then is as relevant now because it's still happening. Not as blatantly as putting a bomb on a house, but it's happening every day in other ways. Continuing.
The fire burned for an hour and a half before police called in firefighters. Tonight, it is unknown exactly how many MOVE members may have escaped the blaze, or how many, perhaps, were trapped inside.
We all decided we was coming out, and we were bringing the children out of the house and hollering to the police, "We're coming out, we're bringing the children out." And their response was, Bertie was right behind me. So when I decided to come out, I grabbed him. And that's how we both got out of that house, that blazing inferno. Police grabbed me and arrested me and put handcuffs on my arms, even though I was burnt. And they grabbed Bertie and put him in a police van and took him away. I never saw him again. In the hospital, I was looking for the rest of my family to come in, and nobody came in behind me. And that's when I knew some of my family, at least, were dead.
Philadelphia police this morning continue searching for more bodies in the burned rubble of a West Philadelphia neighborhood.
One by one, more bodies of MOVE members were found in the rubble of their fortress home. The toll now higher than most had expected.
5 children and 6 adults. Nobody was ever arrested for the murder of my family. Nobody went to jail but me.
You know what? What I said earlier, it was found that they had qualified immunity. That's why we must end qualified immunity immediately, irrevocably, for all government officials. So they can be held responsible just like you and I when we would do the wrong thing or a criminal thing like they did.
I was arrested. I was the only one put on trial for arson, conspiracy, everything that they did, they charged me with. The jury found me guilty. I was sentenced to 16 months to 7 years. So I did the whole 7 years. I haven't been back to Osage Avenue since May 13th of 85. It was 61 or so houses burnt. It was damaged to the core. the people that lived on there took a while to come back. Some of them never came back.
City taxpayers spent $33 million to rebuild the houses.
The homes that was rebuilt, they had sinking foundations, they got leaking roofs, the electricity was messed up. They looked like project houses. Today, I still have the burn scars from May 13th of '85, and some people have told me you should get cosmetic surgery. They can take that off. And I'm saying, why would I want to take it off? I want to be reminded. Our significance today is the consistent example of MOVE. Keep fighting, no matter what, because people could look at MOVE and say, I don't want to be in jail for 30 or 40 years. I don't want to die. I don't want to have a bomb dropped on me. But the thing is, you can die any day of the week in this country being killed by police.
Right there. Any day, and it's happening every day, that people are being killed by the police. Innocent people. Because police have become predators. Predators of we the people. They have completely gone out of control because absolute power corrupts absolutely. There's almost no accountability. And it's not going to happen unless you and myself and we as a community come together to demand change. And as I've shared, doing these videos that I do and my fellow 1A and 2A and freedom activists do is critically important because it brings exposure and awareness to the criminal behaviors of our public officials and the police. But in and of itself, it's not enough by itself. Things have been getting worse instead of getting better. So I am organizing we the people to specifically take action in calling various senators, congressmen, congresswomen to do our bidding so that we are in fact protected and served in our communities, not assaulted and harassed and murdered.
But ought to take the lesson from MOVE and stand up for what is right. As long as we can fight, we're going to fight.
And something I have taught my son is that you don't have to take a stand against everything in your life, but take a stand for something. Don't assume there are other people that will take care of that. Other people, there's those other people who are that kind of people, who are activists. They're going to be fixing this rotten, decaying, rancid, putrid police culture that we have in this United States of America. Ladies and gentlemen, there isn't someone else. They're not doing it. We watch these videos every day. And remember, these videos are a fraction of a fraction of a fraction of what actually occurs. That's what gets on video and is released to the general public. It's way, way, way worse than any of us imagine. But it won't get better unless we take action, peaceful action to stop this and to hold the police accountable, and even bigger than that, because the police are just going to do what they do. It's like a rattlesnake. You could negotiate with a rattlesnake and say, okay, rattlesnake, I'm going to put you in my pocket now because you want to get across this river and you can't swim, you'll drown. You asked me if I would take you, so I'll take you, but you got to promise not to bite me. The rattlesnake says with the most sincere eyes, yes, I will not bite you. I promise. So the man takes the rattlesnake across the river, and just after the man gets across the river, the rattlesnake is safely across the river. Suddenly, the man feels a sharp pain right where he had the rattlesnake in his pocket. And as he starts to get dizzy and pass out and about to die from the rattlesnake bite, the man says one last thing to the rattlesnake and asks him, why? Why did you bite me? I was here to help you, to protect and serve you across this river that you wanted to be able to get to the other side, to get to your family. Why did you bite me? You promised you would not bite me. And the rattlesnake looked at the man, and the last words this man heard before he died was, "Man, you knew my nature before you put me into your pocket." The nature of police and police culture is destruction. Comply or die. For us to comply and up to die. Even if we have done nothing wrong. And I personally have had enough of this, and I know you have as well. So stay tuned for my specific campaigns that I will be organizing with my fellow 1A and 2A and freedom activists throughout the United States. Because alone we will fall, but united we shall not just stand, we will create freedom once again for every man, woman, and child in the United States of America. So the deaths of the Move family will not be in vain and never be forgotten, and will be a catalyst for all of us to take back our freedoms and to express our freedoms in our country. I am Leroy Truth for Leroy Truth Investigations. Please subscribe to my channel. Please like this video. Please share. And please ask your friends to subscribe to my channel as well. Because alone we fall, united we will become free again. Thank you so much for your support, and I appreciate each and every one of you.